This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our session on dbt. dbt stands for Data Build Tool, and so today we will be looking at what this tool is and how powerful this tool is and how it can help us in solving some of the data transformation challenges. So let's start with a quick introduction about myself. So my name is Gurmukh Singh. You can call me Aman. That's my pen name, which I'm known by. I've been in this industry for more than 17 years, mainly into distributed systems. I started my career as a system engineer, working with very different systems like Linux, novel operating systems, and VMS Alpha based on Alpha hardware, Alpha and Wax hardware. And I have worked with companies like Yahoo, Amazon, Hortonworks, Cloudera. But this presentation which I'm talking about today, or the session which I'm talking about today, has nothing to do with any of those companies. These are just my views, but I'm just sharing my experiences here and uh, my experience with this tool. I'm also an author on a few of the books. Like one of them is like Monitoring Hadoop, other is Administration Cookbook, and there are a few others which I'm reviewer for. I used to be a trainer as well from the year 2012 to 2018-19. You can see a lot of content by my name on YouTube and a lot of other content providers for whom I have done content development, which I no longer do that because of my busy time schedule. But still, I do some sessions, and now I don't do, let's say, kind of paid trainings. Like I am kind of thinking like now it's time for me to contribute back, and a lot of or most of my sessions are free. So anybody who has any questions can reach out to me. I will share my email ID at the end of the session. So you might have questions about any of your technology concerns, your career path, your certification path, or what to choose between, or some architectural questions. Feel free to reach out to me. I don't charge anything nowadays. So let's get started. So what is dbt, right? So as I said, it's dbt stands for Data Build Tool. It's a development framework that combines modular SQL with software engineering best practices, right? So that makes your data transformations reliable, fast, and fun. Everybody talks about ETL, right? So when we say extract, transform, and load, we have a lot of tools which will be doing extraction and loading. So this tool which we are talking about today, dbt, falls into the T section, right? It is used for transformation. So the main role of is transformation. So what you do, you load raw data. How you load data? It is immaterial to dbt. You bring data to a system by using maybe any of your streaming technologies, or bringing using a NiFi or any ingestion systems. You bring the data. Then this tool does the transformations and write data into a refined layer. So that's what it does, where you can do, let's say, your ML models, your operational analytics, or your connected through any of the BI tools. So the good thing about this tool is it you can use your development, testing, documentation, and deployment all using a single tool. By default, it supports Snowflake, Redshift, Databricks, right? And for a few other systems by default. But there are plugins available as well from the community. Let's say for MySQL and all, you can use it. But these are the four ones by default it supports, and Postgres as well, right? So this tool is an open source tool. It's from a company called Dbt Labs, right? So if you search for Dbt Labs, so this is a tool from them. So there is a community edition available for this tool. It's free to use. You can use whatever you want. It gives you all the features, except some of the enterprise features like your SSO, your integrated ID development environment, those kind of things. But otherwise, you can do whatever you want with this tool. This tool is free, the community edition. If you want to use it, let's say a cloud version of it, then yes, there are two versions of it. Paid version, one is your team license, which is again very cheap, $50 per seat, or you can go with an enterprise license. So it gives you a lot of features on that, but most of the stuff is free. So let's look what this tool gives us, or what are the advantages of using this tool. So what we're trying to compare is, as I was talking in the initial slides, what dbt is helping you do is it's helping you do the transformations. So you will get a crux of what I'm trying to say. It helps you with transformations. After, let's understand what are the challenges or day-to-day problems we try to solve. So dbt mainly is designed by keeping into mind the non-engineers, right? So non-engineers, when I say, it doesn't mean that obviously they shouldn't be knowing anything about, let's say, writing a code or how a particular syntax works, but it is more based on a declarative programming language. It is version controlled way of writing SQL. It is very flexible. It is used for transformation on data warehousing. It has inbuilt tool for your data quality testing, data validation, right? Your schema checks, right? So which I will try to show you in a demo today. It has searchable data catalog and lineage. There's no need to write any DDL or DML, right? So they are all abstracted. It's all inferred, right? You just write a simple declarative language. It understands, okay, that if I'm executing a particular SQL statement, so all the previous steps should be in place for that particular thing to work. It integrates with Python, and it has Git code integration and all, right? So let's say if I am not using this tool, what we do, let's say here you are reading Redshift, because as I said initially, this tool dbt you can use with Redshift, Snowflake, your BigQuery, Postgres, or any of the community plugins you can use for MySQL as well. So read it here as native SQL. So let's say if I'm not using this dbt tool, I have to write SQL, all the complex SQLs, your UDFs, everything, right from the scratch. I need to understand, okay, what tables are, what are the relationships between those tables. I have to manually take care of the quality and the test constraints. I need to write the entire data flow. There's no searchable catalog or lineage by default available in any of your native systems. Although you can go and, let's say, use any third-party tools for orchestration, but dbt by default provides you an orchestration, right? The flow you can execute, your pipelines, you can do your deployment of your code using dbt itself. And you can also do a breakpoint to diagnose your problems, which is very difficult to do in any other systems. So let's look here what we mean by when we are saying transformations using dbt. So dbt tool is giving you the T part of ETL, right? It's not worried about E extraction. It is not worried about load. It is only worried about the transformation. So once you load data into any system or any place which is accessible to dbt, it takes care of that, and it does transformations and writes to its destination, from where you can downstream to any other systems. So good thing about this tool is Doesn't matter how many times you run that operation is idempotent, right? So it doesn't matter if, let's say, a table exists. If I run that query again, it will not cause duplication of data. If I'm running that query again, it will not insert the data again. It maintains a state. So it is idempotent. It is used for creating models. So when we are saying models, don't confuse it with ML model. These are more mainly data models. So you can create data model using dbt. You can have an option of creating materialized views, tables, or methods depending upon your macros based in the dbt declarative language. For example, in a normal scenario, what might happen is, let's say you have a database and you want to create views on top of it, and you want to give access to those views to different users. Let's say some view might not have a particular sensitive field, and other might have, let's say, a, a date of birth, but one view doesn't have. So you can create all those through declarative language. You can say things like, okay, whenever this particular database is created in a particular environment, let's say in a dev environment, do not include these particular fields. But if it is created in prod environment, create this sensitive field, create a view or create a table. Who can view it, right? So you can control all those things. It supports incremental loads. Other good thing is it supports documentation, right? So which is a very big challenge. Let's say if I'm writing a SQL, so after some time it becomes very difficult for us to understand, okay, which table is the parent table, what is the flow, how the tables are linked. So it automatically creates your documentation, and it also gives you a lineage graph, right? So when I say lineage, I will give you an overview of that. I will show you. So lineage here does not mean lineage from a data governance perspective. So it does not mean like you pass on a tag and that tag flows through your entire data pipeline. It is not a tool like how we have, let's say, Atlas or a Muta and all. Those are data governance tools. So when we are saying lineage here, this is more about the graphical representation of how the tables are related to each other. So which will be more clear once I go with the demo. So let's say if I'm not using dbt tool, what I have to do is I have to use any of your SQL. Let's say in this case, for example, let's say I'm talking about Postgres here. So you need to understand the SQL, the Postgres syntax. You need to understand functions. You have to write all your DDL, DMLs, all your transformations, the load logic, yeah, the transformation logic. You have to ensure your schema validations, your data quality validations, right? And as your SQL code grows, it becomes very challenging how you invoke that. So this tool helps you parameterize your entire pipelines, and you can run same set of tools or same set of conditions on all set of your tables using a control parameters, right? So which I will show you. So if we are not using this dbt tool, we have to take care of all these things manually. So I'm sharing some of the important links here. So as I was mentioning, some people joined later on. So I used to do a lot of training from the year 2012 to 2016-17, and you can see my name floating around by the name of Handel Aman on a lot of YouTube channels, a lot of training partners, online providers. I've done a lot of content development over the last few years, which I don't do anymore because of my busy schedule. But to contribute back to the community, which I've always been doing, like few free YouTube channel, free GitHubs. So people are free to reach out to me with any questions they have. Let me share my email ID up here. So this is my email ID. I will also post that in our group, the meetup group. So any questions you have, let's say related to your concerns about technology, the what career path to choose, or let's say what's the current trends, or what are the architectural patterns for solving certain data problems. So you can feel free to reach out to me. So I don't do paid trainings anymore. So all this is free now. So this is my GitHub, so which has been used by a lot of people. So this is a company which I was running when I was back home in India, which I moved out of India a few years back. But I'm still maintaining all those Git repos. So this all repos you see here, these are mine. So here, one of the repos which you will be using here for today's demo, I have checked in at Dbt. So if you go in this repo, Dbt, so you can access everything. So I will share all these things with you at the end of the demo. So you don't need to worry about how the commands are, what commands I'm running. I will just showing you the demo. So up here, this is my Hadoop repo, which has been used by a lot of people. So you can see some check-ins are 8-year-old, 6-year-old, and also there is an old version which I used to run, Hadoop 1. You can see here 8-year, 9-year-old repos when it was Hadoop 1. So all those things are free now. So any questions you have, anything related to all these things, feel free to reach out to me on this. So let's look at what dbt is and what I'm talking in theory when I was saying this tool does this, right? So let me pull up my terminal. So let's look at some of the tables we have, right? So I'm using Postgres database, but it doesn't matter. We can use any of the supported databases which I talked about. Like for example, I was talking about you can use Postgres, you can connect to Snowflake, you can connect to Databricks, you can connect to BigQuery. Right, so I've already loaded some dummy data, right? So I'm showing you some tables. So I have a schema which is employee. It has so many tables, which has some data, right? So let's say I have an employee table. Let me just quickly show you here. So let's start from employee table. I'm saying limit 10. So it has employee ID, it has some birth date, and it has first name, last name, gender, hire date, and ID is here the primary key. Similarly, there's a, let's say, salary table. There are so many tables here, right? And so these are very big table in terms of number of rows. So again, it has an employee ID, which is mapping to the salary, some dummy data. It has title. It has a title table as well, where it is storing what title each employee has, right? For example, it's just showing you 10 rows, but it has many rows, right? So it has some data. So let's go to dbt and understand what dbt does, right? So let me first show you, I'm using Postgres, so I'm using Postgres commands here. So dt is listing me tables, /dv will list me views. At the moment, I don't have any view. I have just some tables. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a CentOS system at the moment, but this dbt tool can run on any system on which you can run pip, whether it's a Mac system or any of the Linux-based system, you can run this dbt tool on it. So simply what you simply do dbt for installing dbt, you simply do pip install dbt. So it will install dbt core and all the dependent plugins packages. So we don't need to do anything. Simply we do pip install dbt. So how it works? So there is an environment file, or we call it a profile file. So it could be either at your root by the name in a folder called .dbt profile.yaml, right? So this location could be at different places, but I'm showing you. So by default, it will look for a folder in your home directory by the name .dbt, and there will be a file profile.yaml. So this file we have to create, right? So what it is telling, so let's say I'm connecting here to Postgres warehouse. If I'm connecting to, let's say, my any other database, let's say Snowflake, I have to say Snowflake warehouse. So these are keywords. If I'm connecting to Databricks, I have to say Databricks, right? So it's understanding which module of dbt I have to invoke. So when I'm saying Postgres warehouse, it is knowing that I'm invoking a particular warehouse. So I'm saying a name, target dev, it could be anything. From by representation, it means I'm trying to connect to development environment. And I'm saying what are the parameters? I'm saying type Postgres. So here again, what is means, what is the data type? Postgres, Snowflake, what you are connecting to, what is the host, what is the user you are using to connect, what is his password, the port number, what is your database name, schema, and how many parallel threads you want, depending upon your load, right? It's just a connection string I'm passing. So as I said, all this is in my GitHub. So this is telling me which node I need to connect to. Simply, I'm just passing that detail into that. So anybody who's familiar with how a YAML works, so it's a YAML syntax, right? How you intend that file. And it is similar to how we write Ansible scripts, right? So now I've created a folder called /dbt, right? Name could be anything, doesn't matter. Here I've created a folder called project1, right? Again, folder name could be anything. So let me list out what this folder contains. So when we say dbt, after installing dbt, when I run dbt init, it automatically creates this directory structure for me in the directory where I run this command. It initializes, creates that directory structure, modules, macros, analysis, all it creates. I have not created any folder by myself. It all creates everything by default, all the files as well. So the first file which we need to modify is dbt projects.yaml. What is this file telling me? Put your project name, any name, my new project name. So the caveat here is whatever name I'm giving here in this field, same name I have to give here under the models. So it's building your models. As I mentioned, it's not a machine learning model, it's your data model. So by models, what it's identifying what projects I'm building. So whatever name I'm saying, the same name I'm specifying here. Then what I'm telling it to do under that project, I'm telling under that project, there is a Postgres module you have to call. And by default, if I don't tell you anything in my SQL, always create a table, right? I can say view also here, but I'm saying a default behavior. So if I don't tell explicitly to dbt what to do, it will always create a table for me, right? So let's go back. So after this, what happens is, if you look here, this one, so this is again a YAML, similar to how Ansible work. So what this means, it is actually a module with models. What it is telling is, it is telling it to jump into a directory with the name models. Inside that models, there will be another subfolder called Postgres, right? That's what it is telling it, right? So let me shift to that directory, models, right? So I'm giving you a high level one, the model naming convention. But here, what actually it is meaning, as I said you, I cannot write anything else here because it should match what I'm calling. So if I do cd models, under this, I will have a directory Postgres. So from that, it is knowing which directory part I have to jump in to find my syntax. Syntax means what I should be doing. So I do cd Postgres ls-ltr. I again do that. So very simple one. I've just kept 3 files just before the class, just to save on time. So first one I open, file name could be anything, doesn't matter, right? Only the extension should be YAML, .yaml. So I'm telling version. So what this is trying to tell, it's similar to how you have your Git versioning. So whenever I make a change, I can bump this number up, so it keeps a track of it, what version I am at. So here, if you look here, it is working similar to how our Ansible works, where we are saying some variables. What variables? I'm setting a variable name, source underscore table. Variable name could be anything. It could be my name. It could be Aman underscore table. But here I'm saying source underscore table. I'm giving some description. I'm telling a database. Okay, this database you are connecting to. This is your schema you're connecting to, but nowhere I'm telling the host username and password. It is picking that from profile. I'm just telling it which database to connect, what schema to connect, and under that schema I'm telling it there is an employee table, there's a salary table, and there's another title table, right, which I showed you here. Right, there are other tables also, but for this demo I'm just concerned about these three tables. So this is what I'm telling, right? So now where I'm using this is another file over there, where what I'm saying here is with source employee table, right? With source employee table, what does it mean? Again, it can be any name. What it is doing is select star from source of source table employee, right? If you look back here, this I'm referring to this, right? I'm calling that from that dbt. So this is declarative language. So I'm saying with source employee table as select star from, I'm saying source, go to source table name, under that go to a table employee, final as select star from this, what it is called, and then select star from final. It is a way of how we finalize and initialize that query, right? So now this is one. Another is in the same file, I have another one, join, right? So I will come to back this join little bit later. So let's run dbt run now. I'm just doing dbt run. So now let's see what it has done for me. See, look, there is dbt. There's no table destination anywhere, which we saw initially. I showed you the tables. There's no table by the name of destination underscore table. So by default, whatever is the file name, it will create a table by that name. So if I do dt, you will see it has created a table for me, right? It has created a table for me. So a very simple one, right? So now let's go to another one, join table. So let's say I go to Postgres and I want to find, as I showed you, I have an employee table and I have a salary table, and I want to find what is the salary of employees, right? I want to map them, right? So salary is a separate table, employee is a separate table. So they can be joined by employee ID, right? So as I showed you, if I do up key, salary has an employee ID and employee also has an employee ID. But over there, it is referred by ID. Here it is referred by employee ID. So let's say if I have to run this in Postgres, so it will be something like this, right? Select ID, first name, hire date. I'm saying salary dot amount from employee, this table, right? Inner join salary on employee dot ID and salary dot employee ID, right? So this is what we are doing. So I'm doing it on the directly on the system, right? So you can see it is mapping me, giving me those values. But let's go back to the system. If I want to do the same thing using dbt, what I'm using the same logic, any name with employee underscore salary as what I'm doing, select ID as employee ID, first name, this, all same logic. So see here from source employee, And similarly here, select salary.employee ID, salary.amount, all these fields from which table? The salary table. And then I'm doing an inner join, right? I'm doing an inner join. So now when I run this one, it will create a table for me, which will be join table, right? So this join table will have that entries which I was showing you on from the command line. You can see employee ID and it is mapping to that. So this is a very simple thing which we have done till now, right? So this you can think, okay, what is the advantage we are getting? Advantage we are getting here is I can parameterize everything using this syntax, and the advantage you will see in a minute now. So now let's see, I want to test something. What does it mean? Let's say I want to test certain constraints of a table. Let's say the table which I'm creating, let's say the destination table which I've creating, I want the, let's say, obviously, I know this is a primary key, the ID is a primary key, but how do I validate? I want to put a constraint that that ID should be unique, it should not be null, first name should also not be null, right? Let's say that's my condition. I want to do that. So how I can do that? I will simply write one more YAML. I'm just copying it from my notepad, and I am giving any name, just an extension YAML, and I copy paste here. So what I'm saying here, version, important thing, model, which model I'm talking about? I'm talking about destination underscore table, which we have created. Some description I'm giving. It has a column ID, some description again I'm giving. I'm saying on that, do test for me, unique, not null. And on first name, do some tests for me, not null. Right? Now I do dbt test. So don't think that I'm calling test because file name is test. No, I will run always dbt test. It will automatically find all the files which has this test written in that, and it will run that, right? I can also run individually, but we will look at maybe another different session. So see here, it has said it has passed all the tests, right? So now let's look little bit at a little bit complex example. Let's say I want to validate something else. Let's say in this table which we have, we want to verify the same thing, that employee ID in the employee table is unique, not null. First name is again not null, but the title, right? So I showed you title. It had some titles from that table. I want to ensure that the titles could only be certain titles, right? So it should not be that you make some entry in that title table, which is not allowed. Let's say you put a director, for example, which is not allowed. You only give only some allowed values. So let's say if I have to do that here, I have to write multiple SQL there, right? Or let's take an example. Here I'm talking about, I'm doing a join on a table, employee table and a salary table. I want to do a referential integrity test. What does it mean? I'm going to ensure that there is an employee ID present for the employee ID in the salary table. There is an employee ID present in the employee table. I want to do a referential integrity test. So doing that in SQL, I have to write that all SQL, complex SQL. But in dbt, I can do that simply in one simple declarative syntax, right? So let me show you how I've done. So all this I've put in GitHub just to save on time because I don't want to type all this. So I say validate. dot YAML, and I simply write this here. So what I'm saying here, same thing what we have done. I'm saying an employee table. I will show you what does it mean. The same employee table, read it as an employee table. It has an ID. It should be unique, not null. First name should not be null. In the title table, I'm checking the accepted value should only be these. There should not be any other value allowed. And there should be always a referential integrity, means there should be a relation from the salary table employee ID to, it should always have an entry in the employee table with an ID. So it's doing a referential check. It is doing what are the accepted values. It is doing unique check. It is doing non-null check. It has a lot of other checks also, but I'm showing you some basic one. So now coming back to what does this mean here, right? So if you have noticed in the previous executions which we have done, how that executions are working, right? Let's say if I go to my test one, I'm giving test underscore table, right? So what it is doing, every run which it does, it reads some source table, it creates a destination table. So destination table is a node actually, right, in the flow. So that name we have to specify. So I cannot specify imply here. It will not understand because imply is existing on the source side. It has to exist in the transformation map of the dbt. So what I have to do now, I have to create s underscore employee, s underscore title, s underscore salary, right? So what are those now? Let's quickly create those, right? So let's create s underscore employee. So I say vi as underscore employee dot SQL. Okay, before that, let me show you one more thing here. Or okay, let me, yeah, just go up here only. So I'm same thing I'm which with the syntax which I explained you, same thing I put up here. And then I'm creating another one as title.sql. I know I'm going a little bit fast, but we have a lot of things to cover. Anyway, I'm recording this. I will share the recording as dot title. And another one I have to create now is salary. So this one, I pick this up, right? And I copy this, right? Now I run dbt run. Now you will see if I go here and do dbt, see it has created that tables here. So now the question would be, this is not a right approach. It is creating a tables, intermediary tables for me, or it's not actually intermediate. If they're persistent tables, right? Which is not a good thing in the database. It's just creating extra tables, right? What I can do is instead of having this as permanent tables, I can say create all these as views, right? So I can say either I can say by default create it as view with the first syntax I showed you, or I'm saying see the environment. If I'm saying target.name, which is my profile it is picking from, I'm saying create as a view. So let me include that into all ones. employee is done. Then which one is left? Salary is done, and title one is left, right? So I will add here, and now I've added to all three sections. Now I will run again, dbt run. See how this tool is intelligent, right? So it automatically understands. It will understand. See, I've just changed the dbt. Asked it to create a view. See, you can see it is running view. But now what it will do, let's run dbt. See, those tables are automatically gone. But now what it has done, it has put it as view. So it automatically understand what I ran, what was my state. Now the state has changed. Now I'm saying don't have those tables. It will automatically remove those tables, create a view. Now the whole purpose of that was we were trying to do all these validations, right? I was doing referential integrity. I was saying expected values, all those. So now I say dbt test. So now it will run all those tests. See, it is running A tests now from the old one and new ones we had. So it is seeing accepted values, is checking accepted values. It is checking all these values. It is checking for integrity, referential integrity and all. So I can show you, right? For example, let's say from the title table, if I go, I say distinct title, right? Let me show you what all titles it has. It has 7 titles, right? So it has some title also called manager, right? So let me from that validate. Let me just for testing remove this manager from here, right? So it will complain me for fields which has a manager title. It will flag me that there is an entry in the table or there's an employee in the table which has a manager title, but it is not allowed, right? See, it is saying fail one up here, right? So we'll put that test back. So we can see the order doesn't matter here. What order I give it in, it doesn't matter. So all these things it is doing for us. Another good thing, right? Now, which I will show you now. All these tests, everything it has done. There's another thing called dbt dock generation. Now I can do dbt dock generate. It will automatically generate docs for me. So you might have seen in the files I have given descriptions at few places, right? I've given descriptions. So these descriptions automatically it will show. I can do write my comments here. It will automatically create a document out of it. It will automatically create all these lineages, right? So if you remember, we created a join table where what we did a join on 2 tables. So let's go back. I did a doc gen, right? This command. So it generated that document. So let's go to web server 192.168. I'm hosting a web server on that node. So you can see it is showing me projects. It is showing me that models, Postgres models. It is showing me that table, right? So now this table, it is showing me all the types. It is showing me the description, right? It is showing me referenced by what are the constraints I'm checking, what are the dependency it has. This is the source which I write, and this is the compiled SQL it is running, right? So I'm writing a declarative language, but it is automatically converting into a SQL language, which Postgres understands, right? So it shows dependency, SQL, everything. But now let's go to another part. on the left hand side, there is a lineage graph. I click on this. So it is showing me destination table was created from employee table. That's correct. But let's go to join table. So it is telling me join table was created from salary and employee table, right? Similarly, I can go one level up in a database and I can click employee, and it will also tell me what all dependencies it has, what all tables are mapped to it. So if I'm clicking on employee, it is telling me that employee table is now being referred by these two tables. Similarly, join table, salary table, right? So it's a very good tool to quickly look into all these lineages with documentation. There are a lot of other details. I can export this using an API, all this mapping to put into another graph as well. So all these things it does, right? So it has varchar, it has models, all these things. So what it is doing is where it is picking all this from. Let me go back to my command prompt here. So here, if you look here, one level back, if I come, ls-ltr. So the directory structure which we saw, which I said dbt init creates it. Under that, there will be a folder called target, right? Under that, the name, right? Under target, compiled, project name, your model names, this one. See, it will write you the compiled SQL as well. Let's say I write something dbt. Let's say I might have a requirement where something is very complex for me to write in SQL. I can quickly write in dbt and it will generate a SQL for me. And I can copy that SQL and use it directly, right? So as I said here, I go to projects. Let's say join table one. This is my source and this is the compiled one, which it will run directly. So this is what this tool is doing, right? So let me share this one also in the chat for everyone. I will load all these PPTs and everything, but I'm not sure why it is not letting me type into the chat. Anyways, I will share that in that window. I will share all this my GitHub where you can go and access all these repositories. So everything will be here in dbt. And I will also share my YouTube channel where you can watch all these things. Any questions you have, feel free to reach out to me. Okay, so I will open up now to the questions we have, right? Although I might have gone at a very rapid pace, but we are almost at the end of our session, 1 hour. Yeah, feel free if anybody has any questions. Okay, if no questions, as I said, right? So I've given my email ID here. Although email ID is saying trainings at my company, NetZilon. Trainings, as I said, I used to do this a lot long back, but I don't do that anymore. Like the training, the paid trainings and all. But you can still use this email ID to reach out to me with any questions you have. Any you want to talk to me about certain things, certain let's say architectures, your data models, or any kind of guidance. Yeah, more than happy to help. We can have a call. So I don't charge anything. So if you go here, you can see a lot of content here. All these courses I used to run long back, which I don't do anymore. But you can find all this content on YouTube and all. You as I said, I'm author of a book. You can all refer here as well.
Hi, Gurmukh Singh. It was this is Kamal.
Yeah, hi Kamal.
Yeah, I think you can hear me. It was nice
Yes, I can hear you.
introduction. Yeah, it was nice introduction about DBT. I
Thank you.
have one question actually regarding like
Sure.
is it possible to capture the CDC kind of thing, like change data capture, in case at the source, if any
Yeah,
table schema is changed or
yeah.
data
So
incremental data changes. So how flexible it is to handle it using DBT to find out meta changes or data changes?
yes, that's a good question. So what happened is, right? For example, DBT inherently doesn't support CDC, but what happens is
Okay.
how we do CDC. Let's say, for example, so the source systems, right? So as I think you joined a little bit late. So what DBT
Yeah,
is
yeah,
falling
correct.
into? DBT is
Yeah,
falling into the T part of ETL, right? It
yes.
is not an ETL tool. It's not. It doesn't do. It's not doing E part or the load part. So when the
Okay,
data arrives to it, let's say I'm giving you an example of Postgres. So
okay.
Postgres has a water bottle, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, which does CDC for you, right? So those CDCs
Yeah,
are played into a staging table, and from there, your this DBT can do, right? But it
okay,
cannot go to source and detect the changes,
okay.
right? So any of the systems, let's say we are bringing any of the data. Let's say I was giving you an example of employee
Hmm.
table here. So employee table,
Yes,
let's say in employee table, my ID is my primary key, right?
yes,
And
yes.
this key, I can monitor on this key, or let's say I have some sequential key which is always increasing monotonically, and I
Okay.
know that if that number increments, there's a CDC change, right? The change has happened, right? The next row has come. But the
Yes,
challenge comes when, let's say, the existing row modifies,
exactly.
right? So then it
Yeah.
comes to the source system, how that source
Hmm.
system plays back that data to DBT,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So I have like examples on that. If you specifically looking for any way how we do that, yeah, I can help you with that. I can give you some examples or links where that has been done. For example,
Okay.
I'm not sure how familiar you are with Spark and all. So let's say
Yeah,
Spark
yeah.
as a
I'm actually from data engineering, so I'm well
okay,
aware of big data
okay,
ecosystems and all this.
okay, great, great. So for example, you might be aware how Databricks is doing all these things nowadays, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Transactions.
yeah, transactions and all, and on the Delta Lake also, and they the CDC they are using the change CDC detections and all using DLT live tables and all those kind of things.
Yeah,
So it is done in Spark as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Sure, sure. I think you can, sh if you can share me some good links around it, it
sure.
will really help me.
Yeah, sure, definitely, I can do that.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a
Not a
great
problem.
session.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you. Any other questions, team? Okay. So I will be anyway. This session was recorded. I will share the recording link. It will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. And as I said, like, feel free, right? So although I might be very busy, not respond immediately, but I usually respond to every email. So any questions you have, feel free to reach out to me. Okay, guys. Thanks very much for attending the session. It was great to talk to everyone, and talk to you soon, probably in the next session. Bye bye. Thank you.